Hey guys, what's up? Now I get here back in another video. So today I am doing the update showcase for the 3 free-to-play characters. The next video will be the pay-to-play, well, the DLC characters. So I do want to take this moment to say, please hit this video with a like, subscribe to my channel, and hit that bell if you haven't already. It is almost 3 a.m. in the morning. I'm trying to get this out as soon as possible because I know I won't be able to record for long tomorrow. So it really is for you guys. So if you could really show some love to this video, I would truly 100% appreciate it. I don't want to start you any longer, so without any further ado, let's get right into the video. Okay, so the first character we have Strohan. His first move is Abdominal Hellfire, which is similar to Joseph's Tommy gun. You want to be close as possible for this move so you can get the maximum amount of damage. And that's about as good as you'll get with like no wall, but with one wall I'll show that off in a little bit, but that damage is ridiculous. His second move is UV Beam, which fires a laser from his eye, does 10 damage, and then it does 5 damage over time, so pretty decent. His third move is Hand Projectile, which just fires hand projectile from his arm and is a guard break. His fourth move is UV Shoulder Cannons, which is a stun. Oh, used the wrong move. There's his stun. And as you saw right there, his fifth move, once I get over there, is Lich Grenade, where he launches himself into the air, and he drops a bomb, then he launches himself into the air, doing 20 damage. And it guard breaks is unp blockable, so really decent move. And his final move is X, which is Tirade. It buffs his damage and it scales depending on how much you charge it. I'll have to find how much specifically it does, but it boosts your damage nonetheless. And before I get into combos, I do want to show off his damage if you're in like a wall or something and it connects, because it's funny to me. Okay, so I'm like right here, I use Abdominal. Oh my gosh. So you see there's his HP. If every bullet connects, that's nearly 50% of their HP, no Tirade. That is ridiculous. I don't even want to know what Tirade, actually I do. So I'm gonna test it out right now. That is like 75, no, that's like 65% of your HP. Alright, so it's not as OP as I thought. Tirade doesn't actually boost that much. Even with max, like, it's kind of disappointing, I must say, but that is still a lot of damage. That is very, very, very strong. Okay, so the combos that you can do with Strohan, the first one is forearm ones into shoulder cannons into Abdominal Hellfire into dash 501s. And there's the combo. I think I did pretty good right there. I got all the way to the K. You'll probably get a little bit past there if you get more bullets off, but that is a decent amount of damage. That's like that's 65%, 70% of their HP gone with 2 moves, so that's really good. Now the other combo that Deadku, the 2v2 leaderboard winner, told me about was you could do forearm ones into, well, everything I just said, but you can jump on their head before the 5th and 1 for the final one, and you use your 5. Now, for some reason, Deku really likes jumping on people's heads to follow up things, like with Time Stop, Koichi Freeze, and some other things. Like, even if you awaken, he likes to hop on people's heads to do whatever. I don't even know why he does that, but he does. So, there's that. I'm gonna show it off right now. It's kind of hard to pull off, but it's possible. And I kind of messed up, but jump on their head, then you use the 5, and it will guard break them. And I was pretty lucky that he was able to get into a corner because he was able to take most of the abdominal hellfire, but more than likely they're probably going to be towards like the C of their HP, right there. So like 80% of their HP is going to be gone instead of like 90% right there. So there is that for his other combo. And his final combo that you can do is, well, not his final combo, but the other combo that you can do is 4-on-1s. If your 1 is on cooldown, by the way. If you have only your 4 to show off for some reason, then you can do 4-on-1s into 4 into final Lich Grenade. It gives very little room to be able to escape. There. And you see the opponent just stood there and blocked, but if they mashed, of course, nothing's going to happen. If they rolled, they're still going to get hit because it doesn't have enough time. They don't have enough time to roll out of it. And it just covers all options. So it is a pretty reliable option to do if your 1 is on cooldown. Now, if your 1 is and your 5 is on cooldown, then you can just do M1s after shoulder cannon. And I'll go into why you would do that instead of using UV or hand projectile in a bit. But aside from that, that is it for Stroheim's combos. Now, what are my tips for Stroheim? Well, 1, never follow up UV shoulder cannons with hand projectile or UV beam. Now, I will show off why right now. So, stun, 10 damage, and then it does 15 damage over time, but they had enough time to get out of it, as you can see. Now, if I was to do stun, projectile, then they can move again. So, I'm getting 15 damage, and I'm wasting my guard break. Now, imagine if I just did this instead. Or just save your stun, but imagine if I got a stun off and I just did M1s instead. I don't use either of my projectiles, I still have a guard break, and I have currently advantage. So I can do maybe final Lich Grenade since they maybe want to dash at me. I could do any other option besides hand projectile and UV beam, which have a lot more end lag than your 5th M1. Well, I don't think that's true, but it's just you're wasting your moves that you could be saving for zoning purposes for something that could easily be done without wasting your moves. And my other tips for him is big one. When you're using your 5, don't just use it in the direction you're aiming. Typically, when your opponent is you're expecting your opponent to dash towards you. So imagine my opponent dashes towards me and I use 5, they're gonna get hit. But imagine they just walk towards me, right? And then they see the final grenade, then they roll backwards. Now, what happens then? Well, of course, then they're gonna be at a safe spot from the 5, but you have to keep in mind, where are you? So imagine my opponent is like right here, and they don't roll towards me, they walk towards me, and they're doing M1s, and then they see I do the animation, so they go ahead and they roll backwards. And then the first thing they see is me right in front of them in end lag. Something you need to keep in mind is that Final Lich Grenade has a ton of it has a noticeable amount of end lag, and it puts you in a bad spot as well. So whenever you use Final Lich Grenade, you need to make sure that you are sending yourself in a position where you will not be in a bad spot. Now, my tips is to aim we'll go in the direction that you want the opponent to, you're expecting your opponent not to go in. So backwards, of course, because they're not going to be able to reach you. To the left, roll to the right, to the left, anything like that. Just don't just go forward, because 9 times out of 10, your opponent isn't going to roll towards the bomb. So they're not going to roll to the left or the right. And even if they are, they're still not at range to hit you. And if you roll backwards, of course, they're not going to be able to hit you. But if you roll forward, they are at perfect liberty to get a full combo on you. So you need to make sure you're being smart with that. And also, my last tip is whenever you're at your past roll distance, like this is roll distance. That is roll distance. If you're like back here, don't be afraid to use to raid. It's true that projectiles can cancel it, so you need to make sure that when your opponent they don't have any projectiles, because you don't want to take damage, of course. But if your opponent doesn't have any projectiles currently, and you're out of their dash on one range, then it's good to just get the damage boost out, because who doesn't like free damage? Now, the counterplay for Strohan. The counterplay for Strohan is to make sure that after UV shoulder cannons that you are blocking, well, not blocking, you're mashing. I will show off right here. As you see, the first thing the enemy did was attack me. Now, imagine if I was to do M1s instead, because I'm just a clueless Strohan who thinks it's true. Now, I'm not sure why it worked right there. Actually, I am. It's because they don't immediately M1 as fast or mash as fast as an opponent could. But if an opponent was to mash or do any attack really fast, then that would not connect and you would be at a disadvantage. So that's why I'd recommend, if you somehow get hit with shoulder cannons, you need to make sure that you are ready to mash out of anything the Strohan tries to do, just so that you can get a free punish out of it. If the Strohan is coming towards you, they're likely going for shoulder cannons or find Lich, so it's probably best that you roll backwards, or at least start moving backwards so you don't get hit by any of their nonsense. And if they're at a range, you should make sure that you are strafing left and right so you don't get hit by either their projectiles. Don't block from a range, because there's no real point to that besides trying to block UV beam, which is kind of hard to tell from hand projectile. And yeah, those are all my tips for Strohan. Now we're going to move on to Kar's. Okay, so Kar's first move is Brilliant Bone Blade, which is just a barrage. As you can see right there, does a ton of damage. His second move is Swan Dive, which has a little bit of startup where he does a little thing and then he appears in front of the opponent to land on them. That move has a ton of startup, by the way, so it's pretty easy to avoid. If you see any beam of light with Kar's, just roll backwards. You're probably not going to get hit by it. And even so, if you think you're confident with PBing, then you can just time it when you see the flash, just perfect block it, and it's a free punish. Third move is Triple Ravage, just 3 attacks. The fifth one does 5 damage actually, which is interesting. It's nice, 11 damage total. His fourth move is Flashing Strikes, which has a little bit of startup, launches himself forward. For some reason it doesn't knock back. I think it's supposed to knock back, but that is that. And his fifth move, Tempting Light, which is his counter. He can control the direction of where it goes, forward, left, and I messed it up, but you can control like the direction, left, right, down, forward even, but it's always moving forward, so you need to keep that in mind. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like. Probably the most unique counter in the game, or not probably the most unique counter in the game. And also something noticeable is Kar's M1s do 3.5 damage because of his little blades on the side of his hand, so that is something also to keep in mind. Now, Kar's Awakening. I don't think it's finished because it looks pretty ugly right now, but I'll just show it off to you guys. Yeah, I don't know why it's so bright, but there is his Awakening. His first move is Shining Sabers. There's a bunch of 0.7 damage and then flings them back. His second move is Predatory Feathers, which just launches feathers forward. They do 1.5 damage each. His second move is Tentacle Bash, which is one of his guard breaks in Awakening. Has decent range, and it is pretty fast. His fourth move is Crazy Score, which sends out a score that move goes back and forth over an opponent. I'll just do it on these guys. It doesn't have an animation yet, but that's what it looks like right now. It looks pretty bad, I know, but Raren believes that that looks fine and it's unnecessary to fix it, so it's whatever. And his fifth move is Ultimate Hormone Charge, where he puts it on in the air, strikes down. It does 40 damage. So if you catch an opponent, I don't know, in like really bad end lag, or you catch your opponent like just not really expecting it, then it's just gonna do a ridiculous amount of damage. Or even a guard break, that is just a really good way to capitalize off of it. Now, what are Car's combos? Now, his base does have a little small combo that you can do. It is triple Ravage into, well, 4-on-1s into triple Ravage into Brilliant Bone Blade. You can try getting 4-on-1s into triple Ravage into 4-on-1s Bone Blade, but from on these test dummies at least, I have had a little bit of trouble because they've been able to block and roll out of it. So I expect any opponent in ranked would have no trouble mashing out of that. So that's why I'm only going to do 4-on-1s into 3 into 1 instead of 4-on-1s, 3 into 4-on-1s barrage. So we'll see what that looks like. And that's decent damage. That's like 40 plus damage right there. Pretty high overall. But the rest of his moves, of course, don't combo into one another. You just need to really play smart with his base kits in order to get his Awakening. But his Awakening also doesn't have too many combos. It's just a lot of his moves work well together with one another. Okay, so the first bread and butter that you can do with his combo is pair up his Crazed Squirrel with Tentacle Bash and then follow up with 4. So of course they see the squirrel is faster than them, so the first thing is block, break the guard, hit them with that, and then they're being attacked by the squirrel. So you could get roll M1s into that if you catch them while they're getting hit by the squirrel, but if you can't, then it's still gonna be a lot of damage. I'll show off what that would look like. But the rest, his Shining Sabers is also a thing you can pair up with if you get an M1, of course. But his squirrel really does do well with his Tentacle Bash. And if someone tries to run from the squirrel, you can use Predatory Feathers, of course. So those are the two bread and butters you can do with it. I'm going to show off his squirrel one more time. And then knocks them back, and that's not the greatest idea of the damage, but it's probably going to get them to like to the K if you get a guard break off, so at least, so that's really decent. And if you can get the squirrel off, you can follow up with his 4 into, oh, okay. If you can get the squirrel off, you can follow up with his Predatory Feathers, as I said, while they're running away, and catch them with it. So that's another bread and butter that he has, but he doesn't really have any true like combos that require several moves to use with his Awakening. So you really just need to use your best judgment and outplay your opponent like his base to do well with him. Now, what are my tips for Cars? Now, my tips for Cars are, well, one, make sure you're being smart with his Tempting Blight, because it does have a little bit of end lag. As you saw, that was like 1.5 seconds of end lag, which is fairly easy to punish as long as your opponent follows the counter. His Flashing Lights does have a decent bit of end lag. I think it's going to hit because I hit their back, but if you accidentally, you do it on a blocking opponent, and since it does have a lot of stutter, that's likely going to happen. The opponent blocks it, you are in disadvantage since you have end lag, and your opponent gets a free punish, so that's something to also look out for. And his 2 does also have a decent bit of startup. And for some reason, it instantly puts them in the spot the opponent is. It doesn't like strike them down first, then puts them there. So if your opponent has like a heavy attack charged up and then they fire it, you're going to get hit by it. And your opponent might get hit by Swan Dive still, but they also might not. So that's something you just really need to be careful of and beware when using Cars. But that is all for my tips. Now, the counterplay to Cars is just really be smart. If you see he has the Flashing Light thing, just be ready to PB it. I would recommend rolling immediately because you could be missing out on the opportunity to punish a possible counter. But if you see him do the flash, try to PB it when it comes down, and then you basically get a free punish. And if it's not, when you do the block and it's actually Tempting Light, make sure you're walking towards him so you're there to punish his counter. Flashing lights, just make sure you're looking out for that. If you see the animation, then block, and then you get a free punish from behind. And that is all the counterplay for his base, at least. His awakening, just make sure that you're not blocking too much, because the squirrel, yeah, is threatening. Just run from it, because Tentacle is fast and will catch your guard quite easily. And if it does, then you're going to get hit with that Hormone attack, and it does hurt a lot. And that is all for the cards, tips, counterplay, combos, etc. Now we're going to be moving on to Kira. Okay, so Kira's first move is Barrage. Let's see what that looks like. Okay. His second move is First Bomb, where he places the bomb on the opponent. And it does cancel like blocking if you get it to connect, but it has very, very short length time for the stun. And after that, you press the 2 again and it blows up. So it's basically a free combo. I don't know why it doesn't work on dummies, but that is weird. His third move is Sheer Heart Attack. I'll use it on him. Summons Sheer Heart Attack, goes after the nearest opponent, blows up, does 15 damage each. I think at best you can get 3 bombs off. Probably 4 actually. So 60 damage at best? 15, 30, 40, yeah, 60 damage. So pretty decent if your opponent just doesn't block at all and doesn't move, but that's unlikely it's ever going to happen. Fourth move is Cleanup. Blows them up and sends them far away. And his fifth move is his only guard break, which is 5 100 yen coin. Flings a coin forward and explodes. Now, let's look at Kara's Awakening, or Kira Awakening. I don't think it's going to look like that when the game releases, but that's just what it looks like in testing at least. His first move is Barrage. Lasts longer, does more damage. Second move is First Bomb. Places a bomb similar to the first move. Explodes, does more damage. Doesn't have an animation right now on testing dummies, but it does provide enough hit stun to provide a guaranteed combo if used right. His third move is Trace Steps, which it works similar to Kara's counter. You can control it up, down, and if you walk into an opponent, it's not a counter, but if you walk into any opponent while they're not blocking, then it will grab them and sends them backwards, and it provides enough hits to get you basically a guaranteed combo started. His fourth move is Stray Cats, which is a homing guard break. It never targets this dummy. It always goes after this dummy. I don't know why, but it does. And his fifth move is Bites the Dust. He has a little bit of startup, blows up. Everyone near him takes 30 damage, and he gets teleported to his position that he was, 5-10 seconds ago. So now I will be going over Kara's combos. Oh, and one more thing I forgot to test was his instinctive defenses. It's just an evasive while you're getting hit that you can do, so that is also another part of his kit that you cannot forget about. I always forget about that in Diablo, and that's something you cannot forget about with Kira. Now, personally, I suck at doing the combos. I know Deku is able to do it, but I don't know if it's true or not. But basically, he likes to do 4-on-1s into Barrage, into Dash, 4-on-1s grab. I can't do it. Now, you can try it against other opponents. I have no success with it, at least in testing, and against real opponents because I suck at doing Dash on-ones. But if you can do it, more power to you. The combo to follow up a Barrage or follow up a Yen coin after you've done that, to follow up a Cleanup or a Barrage after you've done that is just to use Yen coin. So I messed up, but there is the damage, and of course it would be the same if it grabbed, it would just do less. And I think that's his only combo. Something I do want to point out though real quick before I go over his awakening combos is you can pair up his sheer heart attack while you're awakening. So before you awaken, which is probably going to be on like a new stock or a fresh stock, you're going to use sheer heart attack and just evolve. And then it's basically just pressure to keep your opponent away from your body so they don't try to farm you or something like, well, not farm you, but cheese you while you're awakening. And his combo, oh, I need to kill one of them. So his combo in base, well, awakening is 4-on-1s into trace steps into dash, 4-on-1s barrage into roll bites the dust. Now, you need to take a ton of damage, like a ridiculous amount of damage to be able to cancel a bites the dust, according to testing. So that's why you do the roll, just to make sure it gets a hit. Even if they roll backwards, they're going to still get hit by bites the dust. So that's why you do that. And as you saw, that is a 100-0 if you can get the bites the dust off. And if you don't, then that is like 80 to 70 HP because bites the dust is 30. So that can only mean that they're around that amount of HP. So that is his combo. Now, this is a bug, but it's a pretty cool bug, so I'm going to keep it like this. So, what are my tips for Kira? Now, my tips for Kira is to make sure you're not forgetting about sheer heart attack, but not throwing it out randomly. You should be saving it to use with your 100 yen coin, because if an opponent tries to block it, then it's a really good breaking punish tool. And I know I want to stay like this, but if you do get it against a blocking opponent, so let's say I use sheer heart attack and then I use 500 yen coin, I can't get a grab up, and that's basically going to be sheer heart attack plus the 5, which is 15, plus the cleanup, and then it's a guaranteed sheer heart attack hit. So let's see. I don't know why it blows up crazily like that, but it does. It got an additional bomb in, which was interesting, but that is like, that's an unrealistic amount of damage. Probably add 15 to that, but that is a combo that you can do with 500 yen coin if you catch your opponent blocking. Or it's good damage also if your opponent just runs away and you have good aim. So that's why it's always good to have 500 or 100 yen coin in stock for when you also use sheer heart attack. And my other tip for his base, at least, is to make sure you're not throwing out your first bomb, because I will show off the combo. You see, the opponent had enough time to, even then, he had enough time to get 4-on-1s on me and punish me for using the bomb. So it's basically a trade combo there, which is good in situations where you have the HP advantage and you're in a good place. It is not good in situations where you're in a low HP. That is a terrible option. You should not use it then. So that's why I just don't recommend using it as your first option for most cases. But if you do have high HP and the rest of your options are off cooldown, then I guess it is fine. Now, what are my tips for his awakening? His awakening, like same applies for the first bomb. Just you have other reliable stuff. Don't throw it out. It actually goes through blocking opponents, so you can really pressure your opponent really hard by just walking into them and making them really scared of you with trace steps. So that's also something to keep in mind. It bypasses. Wow. Straight Cat has a lot of pressure, so you can use that to your advantage because it is pretty fast. You can chase the opponent all you want, but it's also unpre-blockable. But in most cases, any smart opponent is just going to run from it because there's no counterplay, so it's kind of not fair. Well, I don't want to say it's not fair, but it wouldn't make sense to not run from it. Even a non-runner will run from it, so it's a good move to apply pressure on a turtling opponent or opponent opponent that's pushing you, but it is like, let's see. You could do something like that. Like, that is really high damage if you get a straight cat off. So that is that's something pretty cool to know. Now, what is the counterplay to Kira? The counterplay to Kira is to make sure that you're just blocking a lot up close, and to make sure you're watching out for 100 yen coin, especially when he has sheer heart attack open. As I showed earlier, you can pair it up and do some insane damage. So you got to make sure when you see sheer heart attack that you're running and you're rolling, so you don't get hit by 100 yen coin possibly. But that's why you don't block it. And his other moves, pretty simple counterplay, just don't get M1'd. And if he hits you with first if he's M1ing you, be ready to get M1s off, because you can punish his 2 if he goes for that option, as you see right there. So if he is hitting you at 4 M1s, then he does first bomb, you can basically get a combo off to trade for his combo. So that's something to also keep in mind. His awakening counterplay is literally just run. Like, if you just hold block, you get hit with his 3. If you hit block, you can get hit by stray cat. He also has his 5 that can guard break, but he can't really capitalize off because he has to go through that whole animation or whatever. So there's that also. And he also has his X, so he's basically uncounterable in Awakening. He has a very, very, very strong OP Awakening, so I would just keep my distance. Alright, he's very threatening in his Awakening. Do not mess with him at all. He is the new Diablo when it comes to Awakenings. And that is all the tips, counterplay, movesets for all the characters in this video, at least. In the next one, I will be covering the DLC characters, probably soon, because I do have access to them, but I want to make sure that they're at least close to their final version, so when I upload the video, it's not like, oh, the character's completely different from how they were, how they are on release. It's not really a fair view of the character. So that's why I'm being very cautious, and I'm making sure that I have like at least a kind of finished version of all the characters. So if you are looking forward to that and you did enjoy and use this video, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the bell to see more content like this, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.